Hi folks, welcome to Talk Formula One again. My name is Daly, as you know, and Portugal was an exciting weekend to say the least. I'm not going to talk of the top end of the grid because I'll leave that to my colleague OBJ. But let's talk about the tail end of the grid, focusing on our ex-world champions. Fernando had a fantastic drive from my perspective in the Alpine. It's a shame that his grid qualifying spot wasn't, as exciting, but we're seeing all flashes of the champion coming back. It'd be good to have him further up the grid fighting for points. Likewise, Sebastian Vettel seems to have gotten his mojo back. Notably, he ended up further up than his teammate Stroll. So it's showing he also seems to be going back in the direction we would have expected an ex-world champion, actually four-time world champion, to be at. Let's look at the other teams. Lando Norris, fantastic drive from him again. He seems to be trying to stamp his authority on the best of the rest. His teammate seems to be struggling because Ricardo, you would have expected to have been, further up the grid, but it's early days yet. It's early days. And then what about the Ferraris? Sainz seemed to have had a fantastic drive, but for some reason, I would like to believe his tire management wasn't quite what it could have been. I mean, having said that, he was easily one of the harder drivers to get by on the circuit, in all credit to him. But tire management seems to have failed him because he just dropped like a stone towards the end of the race. Leclerc, on the other hand, seemed to have, done really well, fighting his way back up. And then, talking about ex-world champions, Kimi, what did you do? It's a big hash on your part, I wouldn't want to say age is catching up with Kimi, but that was really an unforgivable mistake. But we do have bad days at the races, so I guess it's one of those he had. The Haas team, back of the pack. Williams, they expected to go much better, but did not quite work out as they wanted it to. All in all, I guess Barcelona will be a weekend to look forward to. I'll pass you over to OBJ. Let's hear his comments on the top end of the grid. Was very exciting.
Yeah, great intro as always, Dele. And yeah, we just have to say thank you to the backmarkers. They have their own, share of fun, and they certainly keep us entertained. So we always need to kind of focus on them. Fantastic race. I don't know what you think. I'm not going to talk about Lewis Hamilton because otherwise it's just going to become too monotonous. But I've got to be honest with you. What really struck me, a guy that I think is not being recognized or being celebrated at all, is Lando Norris. I mean, Norris coming, fifth, ahead of his teammate in the same car. He's British. We need to celebrate him. I'm just wondering why there's a media ban on this guy. Nobody really wants to talk about him, but I really like him. I think he's got the right attitude. I think he puts in a good show. He's definitely quicker than his teammate, and there needs to be a bit more recognition for his efforts. I mean, needless to say, his father is apparently an extremely wealthy man, and people think that his silver spoon is perhaps to blame for his good performance. I beg to differ. Okay, Lando Norris, thank you. I mean, I I thought I was going to ignore saying anything about Lewis, but I think he put in just an amazing show. The overtakes was outside of the textbook. Um, he outpaced, outsmarted, both Verstappen and his teammate. And it was just an amazing, totally amazing drive. He lost position from the onset. He not only recovered ground, he put in a fantastic, a terrific performance that would keep the mouths of perhaps all critics. It will keep their mouths shut, and I'm hoping, finally, and I'm equally hoping that we would hear more of him being referred to as Sir Lewis, because he has done us proud. He has shown Mercedes that if not for Lewis, they will have a really strong battle with the Red Bulls, the McLaren, and in fact the Ferraris in their hand. George Russell, I didn't see him. I didn't think he was in that race, to be totally honest with you, and that tells you a lot about his potentials. Alonso, glad to have you with us as always. Glad to see you in the top 10. You've done a terrific job. Slightly disappointment for me though is, Ocon shouldn't really be ahead of Alonso any time of the day in any race. But Ocon seems to be pulling a bit more performance out of that car, and we need to recognize him for that as well. I mean, this race was talked about being, difficult, or shall I say, was going to be extremely difficult, impossible to overtake, almost a possession. When I looked at the track, I looked at the undulation, the dips, the corners, the width. I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm glad I'm not an F1 driver. And again, taking me back to Lewis Hamilton, what he did was just totally amazing. It was totally amazing. And he's showing himself to be a much better driver than two Bottas's put together. And Bottas not being able to find any performance, even after, getting the nudge by, Mr. Wolf himself. Might have been the final nail in the coffin for our friend Bottas. I mean, I do like him. He's a great guy. He just doesn't seem to have the spark for whatever reason. Yeah. So enough from me. That was the race. It was an absolute magical race. Great performance from all the drivers, and we look forward to seeing you next edition and at the next race. Thank you. Stay tuned.